Okay, so here are just a few more things I forgot to say in videos 1 and 2. The first thing is your sculpture does not have to be 100% realistic. It could be a little bit like stylized or cartoony, especially if like you're using that to kind of drive home the quality that made you connect the specific animal to the person who inspired it, right? So, for example, again, of Josh's sculpture, if he's doing a cat because cats are lazy, he wants his cat to like look really lazy. So you can do that in a realistic way, but if you feel like doing that in a more like exaggerated or stylized or cartoonish way works better and that's what you like to do, that's totally fine. So these do not have to be realistic, but they can be. Either way, it's fine. Even if it's not realistic though, you still need to have some sense of like anatomy that makes sense, like a leg is attached to this. Um, Even if you look at like cartoon characters, if they're done well, there's like a certain amount of believability to them because they're kind of taking into account like cartoon anatomy, if that makes sense. So everything I said in the first two videos applies. Looking at it from all directions, working from general to specific, thinking about anatomy. Um, the second thing is once you have your figure, your animal, kind of at this stage. So it's like, it's still pretty rough, right? I mean, the texture especially is kind of rough. Whoops, I just dumped him in the water. And you still need to do a lot with the details, like especially on the face. But he looks pretty okay. Like if I were to squint my eyes or look at it from a distance, I would be okay with it, right? So once your sculpture is at that stage, it's a good idea to, one, make sure that it stands and doesn't like fall over. Make sure it's nice and balanced, okay? If you've been doing this the whole time, great. Second thing, let it dry a little bit. So my clay was super squishy to begin with. Yours probably is too. Once you have the main idea formed, you can leave this out for some time. You can wrap it loosely. Make sure you monitor it, right? You don't want to like leave this and forget about it on a windowsill and then come back to it 3 days later because it'll be super dry and you can't really do much with it. But let this get a little bit harder, even like little less than leather hard type of stage, so that when you come back and do more finishing touches, they're a little bit more permanent and the clay is a little bit more crisp so that you can do things to the clay without it kind of getting all scrabbly, if that makes sense. So again, even if you're going for something more cartoonish or stylized or exaggerated, everything I said in the video applies. Make sure he or she is balanced and can stand and isn't like, falling over and smushing onto his face or something. And then make sure you let it dry a little bit harder before you move on to stage 3. I hope you guys have fun with this and I'm excited to see what you create.